The Orioles are killing it, though. They're doing well, right? So we got a lot going on. Good to be here with everybody. Appreciate you coming out. First, really practices of the 2024 season with the rookie minicamp. This is our second practice. Tomorrow will be a weightlifting session and conditioning. We'll have meetings this afternoon until 5 o'clock, and the guys have been doing a great job. So really happy. Great to see them all here. Fun to get on the field, and we've enjoyed it. So what questions do you have?
With Andrew Vorhees, I think this is probably the first time you've seen him out on the field. Kind of how has he looked? I know he's been in the program for about a year now.
Yeah, he looked well trained, very well trained. He's been here, as you know, Jamison, just basically working out for a whole year, and he was already a strong guy. He bench pressed without an ACL last year and almost set a record, right? And he looks strong, man. He looks great. I'm looking at him right now. He's big, he's strong, moving his feet well. He's been studying for a whole year, and I thought he looked like you'd expect him to look.
Coach, do you have a message for these guys not to get frustrated by the speed of the game because it's such a jump from college to pro?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest message is that, you're here for a reason, and not just you're in the NFL for a reason, and don't underestimate your ability to fulfill your dreams. Don't underestimate that possibility. And guys, they generally don't. Guys are confident, they're excited, and then know that you're here with the Ravens for a reason. You liked us, we liked you. And everybody understands how we play and what we believe in. They know our identity, and that's your identity. That's why you're here. So be great at great. Be great at that, and see where it takes you.
Joe Evans, the undrafted free agent out of Iowa. Some talk before the draft. Is he a tight end? Is he a fullback? Do you view him as a defensive guy? Can he cross-train? How do you guys view him?
Yeah, probably all work in progress, kind of figuring that out, Jeff. I mean, he looked good. We were playing him an outside linebacker in this mini camp, and he looked good, quick, fast. I could see where he could be like a move tight end or more of a fullback type guy also. The more he can do. Obviously, he's going to be a special teams factor as well. So he looked good out there. He's also a guy you kind of think when the pads come on, you're really going to see even more.
I know it's exciting for these guys to put on the jerseys for the first time and the helmet and get on the field. What is it like for you to go from seeing these guys that you've now scouted for so long and now finally, get them on the field?
It is. It's a big deal. It's people say it's kind of like Christmas. You get to open up those presents, and I don't know. I really like Christmas a lot. So I don't know if it's quite as good as Christmas, but it's up there, man. It's fun to see the guys that you've been talking to and interviewing and watching tape on. You see them come in and they're Ravens and they're in your colors, wearing your helmet, doing what they do. It's very meaningful.
John, do you sense nerves from them, and how do you kind of measure what they can do versus any kind of nervousness that they have?
Great question, Bo. You saw the nervousness like in the meeting room, in the cafeteria. Guys come in, sometimes don't have anybody to sit with, they're sitting by themselves, kind of looking around, like anybody. You go to college for the first time in high school, all that stuff is, I watch it, my heart goes out to them because you see it every single year, and it's a human thing. But football-wise, you don't see it as much. Once they get out on the field, they seem like they're pretty comfortable in that environment. They start running around, and they look like they know what they're doing.
Coach, for some of the other guys, is it kind of like a talent show? They're trying to impress you and show their best so they can win you over and advance to maybe the next round?
Yeah, it's absolutely part of it, Jerry. I mean, there are guys here on every level. You've got everywhere from your first round pick through to your recruited free agents to your trial guys. And everybody kind of wants to make a good first impression. Every single guy wants to make a good first impression. And so they all do their best to do that. And then some guys are trying to, earn another shot, and come back tomorrow.
How was your first impression of your first round pick, Nate
He
Wiggins?
looked good. He looked good. Nate looked good. But you know what? With a guy like that, it's not so much about coming back tomorrow. It's about being better tomorrow and making the transition to the pro game. So as good as he looked, technique-wise, there are so many things that he needs to get better at, and he's open to that, and that's part of that.
Hey, Coach, do you see some similarities from Rosengarten as Pat McCary, adding the value playing left and right?
With Roger? Yeah. That way, that versatility, absolutely. Yeah, there is a lot of similarity that way. Roger's a really good athlete, and so is Pat. Moves his feet really well. You saw that out here. You see it on tape, and then you see it in person, because I hadn't watched him work out. I saw him in person in the championship game a little bit, but that's different. to see him in person out here moving his feet, I'm like, okay, he's everything that we thought he would be athletically. So that's a big part of it.
Coach, I hate to ask you an injury question on day one, but with Rasheen Ali,
I knew it was coming.
with Rasheen Ali, we saw him running a little bit here, but I know he's coming off an injury to the Senior Bowl. What kind of is his map?
Yeah, they say that he's going to be able to do more and more as we go here in the off season. So I think they just want to protect the bicep so it doesn't get grabbed and, re-injured. And as soon as they're comfortable that won't happen, like he's doing all the on-air stuff, then when they're comfortable with that, I think he'll be out there practice. There's a chance he could see some OTAs. He'll certainly be more than ready for training camp. We had some other guys have some issues. Bo rolled his ankle yesterday, so you didn't see him today. And yeah, Isaac had a little kind of tweaked his hammy just a little bit yesterday. So that kind of stuff happens. Was there any other ones?
I was going to say, Coach, you brought in a couple guys from the Division II and Division III level into camp. Notable one is Division II All-American Chris Collier. What goes into signing those guys who maybe haven't proven themselves at the highest level, but you think can make it in the NFL?
Well, it's a great question, and really, and the level of play is important, but it probably helps you evaluate a little more apples to apples kind of a deal. But great players come from every single level of college football. And it's really how you transition to the NFL that counts. In Chris's case, I mean, he was a dominant player at that level, and you expect him to be able to play in the NFL. He came out here and looked like he belonged. I mean, he's quick and fast and strong and just looks the part. So he's going to have a chance to make the team just like everybody else. He looked really good.
John, those small school guys along those lines, like, how has that changed in the 60, 20, whatever years you've been doing this, in terms of just that talent level and more of those guys and sort of how you look at them and so forth?
Brian, that's a great question. I don't know the fine numbers on it, but honestly, I think there's fewer guys now coming out from the quote unquote smaller schools than there were just because of the transfer portal. So a lot of those guys are transferring up before they get into the draft. So you'll see, hey, he was here, and boom, he was at another level. Like I was talking to the coach at Miami of Ohio yesterday, Chuck Martin, and then they won the MAC championship last year. And Miami puts guys in the NFL or in camps pretty much every year over the years. I'm kind of proud of that. But now they're putting guys like they're transferring to the SEC before they come, or the Big Ten sometimes before they come to the NFL. Then he's getting guys transferring over too. So it's kind of a different deal. So I think you'll probably see more of those guys getting a year or two at the highest level before they come to the NFL, most likely.
Coach, I want to ask you about Jordan Toles out of Morgan State. I think he's the only HBCU product here. What did you see from him, and what did you like about him?
Well, first of all, his tape is really good. He's a very productive player. Then we had him for the workout, and he looked really good moving around. He's a big, strong guy, and he moves well. He's a defensive back. He looked really good the last 2 days. I just think he's an instinctive player who's got high level of ability. So, we like those guys, especially those guys from around here. There's 5 really good programs in this area that we have a lot of respect for.
Coach, how much do you seek out and value the feedback of current players? For example, Adisa played with Odofe at Penn State. Did you go to him about Adisa and get any feedback? And I guess what was that?
No, it's a great question. Going to your players for feedback for guys that they've played with, we absolutely do that. That might be the most important one, more so even than the coach. You get a guy that played with somebody. Sometimes you'll ask other teammates on the team, who would you bring with you? What player would you bring with you if you could? And you get a really good answer that way too. But of course, Odafe, he loved Adisa Isaac. I mean, he just loved him, and you can see why.
John, I think you said you looked at part of your assignment was wide receivers in the draft, I think. Wasn't it when you were looking at guys? Tez Walker, your guy here. Where did you think, kind of when you were evaluating him in the pre-draft process?
Yeah, you knew he was going to be fast, and you knew he was going to, be big and fast. I was impressed that he showed that. I was impressed with how well he moved, changing direction. I didn't know if he was going to change direction quite as well as he did the last 2 days. So, caught the ball really well. So yeah, he's off to a great start.
John, you guys were best player available drafting team, so maybe this would have happened anyway. But a little bit with the two corners and sort of contrasting, corners and then like different strengths and stuff. How attractive is that when you look at that going forward? That Nate Wiggins and TJ kind of have different strengths and all that, and how well do you think they could kind of mix?
It's probably a great observation. It's not something so much that we were thinking about, that we wanted to get two guys of a certain style. it just kind of came to us. And now when you look at the roster, you kind of evaluate that from the perspective of we have both these guys, and who are they, and how do we use their talents. I mean, they're both long and rangy. They both use their hands really well in press. They both can move really well. But, obviously they're just a little different in their style of play. TJ's very physical with his hands, plays all the split safety stuff on the edge really well also. I think it's going to factor into how we build our defense.
Coach, you've got a couple players here who have been around the team before, Owen Wright, Sean Ryan. Do you have higher expectations for those guys because they've been around?
Yeah, you could see it out here. It's a good point. I mean, they've been through practices for a year, so they were obviously. I mean, they talked to the guys, broke the huddles after the practices, and I told those guys, I said, these guys are all going to be looking at you for how to do it, so don't let them down, and they didn't. They look good, and those guys are fighting for roster spots.
John, I think one of the few surprises from the draft was just not to come away with a guard, and then among the undrafted players was one that was named that was an interior offensive line for guard. Is that a lot of speaking to confidence in like Vorhees and some of the players that are already on the roster? Is that just an area that you guys feel more confident in maybe the public perception?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's cool. It's the same understanding. Whatever you don't get in the draft, it's like, they failed in the draft because they didn't get that. You can't get everything. We always want more picks. It's always how many more picks would be enough? It's like 2 more picks. 2 more picks would be perfect, no matter how many you have. It seems like guys can always play for 2 more years. Guys can always coach for 2 more years, and you can always use 2 more picks. So if we had 2 more picks, we'd probably have 2 more guards, I guess. But the draft's got to fall a certain way, and that's the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer is yes. We have very much confidence in those guards we have here. It wasn't like we felt like we were desperate. We had to draft guards, If the right guards were there at the right time, we certainly were going to take them. The right corners happened to be there at the right time, so we took those guys as an example. And I know that those guys that you're talking about are gonna play great football for us. So, and then Eric, if we need to do something else, we will. There's still guys available out there.
2 more for Coach, please.
John, with the new football rules, how, if at all, has that affected when you're looking at roster construction, when you're evaluating these guys?
It's a real subtle and a very good point because you don't have to run down. You don't have to run as much on kickoff and kickoff return. It's going to take. The 4-3 teams would always have a little bit of an advantage on special teams in those phases because they had one more guy that was a runner. And the odd teams like us in Pittsburgh were a little bit disadvantaged because those big outside backers weren't those space runner type guys. Now those big outside backer type guys are going to be more valued because they run 5 yards, but their length and their strength is going to be a big part of that play. So, we're kind of looking forward to seeing how that plays out, but that's going to be a big part of our evolution with the play, I guess you'd say.
Obviously, with Devin Leary, the arm strength is there, the experience is there, but I guess the thing that people held against him was just the inaccuracy. How much of that do you think is developable, fixable, and what are your kind of expectations for this first offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very fixable in the sense that the arm strength is there, and I think he's an accurate thrower, but he unfortunately threw it to the other team too many times, So when he and I had that conversation, I said, what's your trait? He goes, well, I really work hard and I'm tough and I got, I'm dedicated. And I go, I know, but I mean, what's your football trait on the field? He goes, I got a great arm. I'm like, bullseye. You can throw the ball. What's the biggest thing you need to work on? He goes, I need to cut down the interceptions and turnovers. So he knows. And that's something I think you can get better at, Gets in the offense, executes the offense, the decision-making part of it every single day. You start with arm talent. That's a good place to start. So with him, it starts with arm talent. Plus, he's a super hard worker. So we'll see how he does.
All right, Coach, thank you.
All right, guys, thank you. Appreciate it.
See ya.